Welcome to Fully Bright in 10, where we get it right, get bright, and stay bright. In this video, we will continue with our guide on how to study and pass CSEC mathematics. Now, what about reasoning and comprehension? Let's look at this example. Tam is selling her new laptop for $5,000. Tia wants to buy it, but only has $2,000. Tam decides to take $2,000 now and asks Tia to pay the balance in 6 monthly installments of $550 each. Your task? Calculate the total price that Tia will pay for the laptop. Now we can actually do this in 2 steps. The first step is to calculate the total installments. Now from the question, you see that Tia has to pay 6 monthly installments of $550 each. So the total installment would be $550 times 6, which gives you $3,300. Now this is you demonstrating comprehension. Now step 2, you can calculate the total price. So what you're doing is adding the total amount that Tia gives to Tam, which is $2,000, plus the installment of $3,300. That gives you a total of $5,300. This is you demonstrating reasoning. Now let us look at a question that requires all 3 skills: knowledge, comprehension, and reasoning. Your task is to solve the simultaneous equations x squared equals 1 minus y and x equals 1 plus y. So our first equation is x squared equals 1 minus y, and x equals 1 plus y is equation 2. From equation 2, we can solve for y. So y is equal to x minus 1. So you're simply taking 1 to the left-hand side of equation 2. Now, you substitute y into equation 1. As a result, we end up with 1 minus x minus 1. So x squared is equal to 1 minus x plus 1. Be very careful when you clear the brackets with that minus. So we end up with x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. You want to now rewrite the left-hand side of the equation into 4 parts. Currently, it has 3. But you are specifically focusing on replacing the middle term with 2 terms. To get this done, write down the coefficient on the first term, which is 1. The first term is x squared, and the coefficient is 1. And write down the last term, which is a constant. What is that? That's minus 2. So let us say a is equal to 1, which is the coefficient on the first term, and c is equal to 2, which is the constant. So a equals 1 is the coefficient on x squared, and c equals 2, or minus 2, is the constant. Now, multiply these 2 numbers, 1 and minus 2. That gives you minus 2. Now, you want to ask yourself, what 2 numbers can I multiply to get minus 2 and at the same time add to get the coefficient on x? So remember, we just multiplied a times c, which is 1 times minus 2 to get minus 2. And now we want to know what 2 numbers can we multiply to get that minus 2. And if we add those 2 same numbers, we get the coefficient on x. So we're looking for 2 numbers that can give us the coefficient on x, which is 1, but at the same time, if you multiply them, you get minus 2. So think about it. You should come up with -1 and 2. Why? Because -1 times 2 gives you -2. But if you add -1 and 2, what do you get? 1, which is the coefficient on x, which is the middle term. So -1 and 2 are key numbers. So now that we have those numbers, we can actually rewrite the middle term of our equation. So here we have x squared minus x plus 2x minus 2. So if you look at the two middle terms, if you add them, that's minus x plus 2x. What do we get? X. And it's because we identified -1, which is a coefficient on x in that second equation, and 2, which is the coefficient on x in that second equation as well, as numbers that are important. These two numbers, again, when you multiply them, you get -2, but if you add them, you get 1. Now that we have established that, we can go ahead and factor out x from the first two terms. So the first two terms will be x squared minus x. So we can factor out x. When we factor out x, we get x open bracket, or open brackets, x minus 1, plus what is common between the two last terms? 2. So you can factor out 2. So it's plus 2, open brackets, x minus 1 equals 0. So our two new terms would be x minus 1 times x plus 2 equals to 0. Now, if you multiply x minus 1 and x plus 2, you are going to get back x squared minus x plus 2x minus 2, which would end up being x squared plus x minus 2. Now, what you can do now is to solve this equation, this last equation for x. So obviously, x will be equal to 1, and x would also be equal to -2, right? So now let's go to y equals x minus 1. Y equals x minus 1. Remember, that was our equation 2. So now that we have this equation here with us, we can now substitute the values of x that we found, which would be 1 and -2. So when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1 minus 1, which is 0. And when x is equal to -2, y is equal to -2 minus 1 equals -3. This simplification is knowledge. So what have you found? You found 2 values for x and 2 values for y. Now let's talk about the subject report. You want to review as many subject reports as you can. Start with the ones in the syllabus. Ideally, you want to review the latest ones. These reports cover certain contents. They provide details on the responses for each question, what candidates did wrong, solutions to questions are also provided, and recommendations to improve performance. Now let's talk about your big day. You want to be on time, stay calm, read exams questions carefully, and be confident. Remember, you can get a grade 1 and you have the ability. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Fully Bright in 10, where we get it right, get bright, and stay bright.